The morgue's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Dr. Maren Voss's tired face as she studied the X-rays pinned to the lightbox. She traced the hairline fracture at the base of Amelia Rowe's skull with her fingertip, the pattern inconsistent with the reported fall downstairs. The bruising on the victim's wrists told a different story. Defensive wounds, evidence of a struggle. Behind her, the morgue door creaked open, followed by the distinctive tap of expensive leather shoes. "Working late again, doctor?" District Attorney Damian Rowe's voice carried that same public charm he'd displayed at his wife's funeral that morning, but something in his eyes made Maren's blood run cold. The small town of Valebrook prided itself on three things: its ancient forests, its close-knit community, and its impeccable crime statistics. District Attorney Damian Rowe had built his career on the latter, transforming a sleepy legal office into a powerhouse of convictions. With his charismatic smile and Harvard education, he'd charmed voters for 3 consecutive terms. But beneath the town's pristine surface, secrets festered like wounds. And on this rainy April evening, one of those secrets lay on Dr. Maren Voss's examination table. Amelia Rowe, the district attorney's wife, whose supposed accidental fall looked increasingly suspicious under medical scrutiny. "The stairs in the Rowe residence have plush carpeting," Dr. Voss said. "These abrasions suggest contact with a harder surface." Damian's expression didn't change. "Are you questioning the official report, doctor?" "I'm following the evidence," Maren replied. "The contusions on Mrs. Rowe's wrists indicate she was restrained shortly before death. My wife suffered from vertigo," Damian said. "She likely grabbed the banister as she fell. There are older fractures too. Healed ribs, a previously broken finger. Amelia was clumsy," Damian said. "I'll need to include these findings in my report." "That would be unnecessarily distressing for my daughter, don't you think? Serafina is already struggling to understand why her mother isn't coming home." Maren hesitated, thinking of the little girl she'd glimpsed at the funeral that morning, standing alone at the back of the church, clutching a stuffed rabbit while adults sobbed dramatically around her. "The report goes to the sheriff first," she said. Damian smiled, all teeth. "Sheriff Dunham and I play golf every Sunday. He's been very supportive during this difficult time." The threat hung in the air between them. "I should let you finish your work," Damian said. "The funeral was exhausting. I need to get home to my daughter." As the door closed behind him, Maren's hands trembled. She reached for her phone, hesitated, then set it down. Sheriff Dunham was indeed Damian's closest friend. Who could she trust? After a moment, she opened her desk drawer and removed a small digital camera. Methodically, she began photographing Amelia's injuries, storing the memory card in her pocket rather than the hospital's system. Earlier that day, St. Augustine's Cathedral stood like a granite sentinel against the gray morning sky. Inside, Amelia Rowe's mahogany coffin rested before the altar, draped with an arrangement of white lilies that perfumed the air with a cloying sweetness. The pews overflowed with Valebrook's finest, judges in somber suits, society women dabbing at dry eyes, reporters scribbling notes for tomorrow's front page. At the pulpit, Damian Rowe adjusted his tie, the picture of dignified grief. "Amelia brought light into every room," he said. "Her absence leaves a darkness I can scarcely comprehend." Heads nodded sympathetically. A photographer from the Valebrook Gazette captured the moment, the grieving widower, hand over heart. In the last pew, 8-year-old Serafina Rowe rocked slightly, her small body moving to a rhythm only she could hear. The stuffed rabbit in her arms, Mr. Hoppy, worn threadbare from years of love, pressed against her chest as if to shield her heart. "Sarah," whispered Mrs. Whitaker, her father's housekeeper, trying to stop the child's movement. "People are looking." But Sarah didn't stop. The cathedral was too loud, too bright, too full of conflicting smells and emotions. She kept her eyes fixed on the worn leather hymnal, finding comfort in counting the gold-embossed numbers on its spine. From the pulpit, Damian never once looked in her direction. After the service, mourners formed a reception line, waiting to offer condolences to the widower and his daughter. Sarah stood beside her father. Mr. Hoppy clutched tightly as unfamiliar hands patted her head, and strange voices spoke in the high-pitched tones adults reserved for children. "Poor little thing," they murmured, "and with her condition. How will Damian manage?" Sarah didn't look up. She counted the floor tiles instead. Black, White, black, white, a checkerboard pattern extending to infinity. She hasn't spoken since it happened, Damien told Judge Pearson. The doctors say it's trauma. The truth was, Sarah rarely spoke anyway. Words tangled in her mind, emerged wrong or not at all. Her mother had understood this, had given her crayons and paper instead, and had learned to read the colors of Sarah's emotions in her drawings. "Mommy's with the stars now," Sarah whispered to Mr. Hoppy. Her father's fingers tightened painfully on her shoulder. The last casserole-bearing neighbor had departed, leaving Damien alone with his daughter, and the hollow echo of the grandfather clock marking time in the foyer. Upstairs, Sarah sat on her bedroom floor, still wearing her black funeral dress. Around her, crayons and paper formed a protective circle as she drew with fierce concentration. On the page, a stick figure woman lay at the bottom of stairs, while a larger figure stood at the top, hands outstretched. The door opened. Sarah didn't look up. "What are you drawing?" Damien asked. Sarah continued coloring, adding red crayon around the fallen figure's head. Damien crossed the room in 3 strides, snatching the paper from the floor. His face remained impassive as he studied it, then methodically tore it into precise quarters. "We don't draw things like this, Serafina," he said. Sarah rocked faster, her eyes fixed on her empty hands. "Get your coat," Damien said. "We're going for a drive." Something in his tone made Sarah look up. Her father was already packing her backpack, stuffing in her favorite sweater, a box of crackers, her small flashlight with the butterfly stickers on the handle. "Where?" she managed to ask. "Somewhere special," Damien replied. Sarah clutched Mr. Hoppy tighter. Her mother had always said Mr. Hoppy was magic, that he could protect her when Mommy couldn't be there. She needed that magic now. As Damien led her to his sleek black SUV, Mrs. Whitaker appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Sir, is everything all right?" "We're going to my sister's for the night," Damien said. Mrs. Whitaker nodded, though her brow remained furrowed. "Will you be back for breakfast?" "I'll call you," Damien said, closing the car door. They drove in silence through Valebrook's empty streets. Sarah watched familiar landmarks disappear. The library with its stone lions, the ice cream parlor where Mommy had taken her every Saturday, the playground with the special swing she loved. Then they were on the highway, streetlights growing scarce as Damien turned onto progressively narrower roads. The forest pressed close on either side, ancient trees reaching toward the car like grasping hands. Sarah had never been to her aunt's house. She wasn't sure her father had a sister at all. After 30 minutes of driving, Damien turned onto a dirt road barely visible among the trees. The SUV jolted over ruts and stones, branches scraping against the windows like fingernails. Finally, he stopped in a small clearing. "We're here," he said. Sarah peered through the window. There was no house, no lights, nothing but trees and darkness. "Out you go," Damien said. He helped her down, settling the backpack on her small shoulders. The forest floor was damp beneath her patent leather funeral shoes, soaking through to her skin. Damien knelt, meeting her eyes for the first time that day. In the headlight's glow, his face looked strange. "Your mother understood you," he said. "I never did. I never will." Sarah clutched Mr. Hoppy, the rabbit's glass eyes reflecting twin moons of light. "You're broken inside," Damien continued. "Damaged goods. I tried to make it work, for her sake, but now there's no reason to pretend anymore." He walked back to the driver's side, opened the door. "Use your flashlight when it gets too dark. The crackers should last a day or 2. Sarah stood frozen, unable to process his words, her mind cataloging details instead, the mud seeping into her shoes, the scent of pine and rotting leaves, the distant hoot of an owl. "Daddy," she whispered. But Damien was already in the SUV. Door closed, engine starting. The headlights swept across her in a final, blinding arc, then turned away. Darkness enveloped Sarah like a living thing, the forest breathing around her with unfamiliar sounds. She clutched Mr. Hoppy to her chest and began to rock, counting her breaths to keep the panic at bay. 1, 2, 3. Dawn broke hesitantly over Valebrook National Forest, pale light filtering through branches still dripping from overnight rain. In a small cabin tucked among ancient pines, Rowan Hale hunched over a mug of black coffee, scrolling through footage from his wildlife cameras. Technically, Monitoring these cameras wasn't part of his job as a forest ranger. The Department of Natural Resources cared about fire prevention and tourist management, not animal migration patterns or predator territories. But for Rowan, the cameras provided something essential, proof that the world continued functioning without human interference, that natural laws still applied somewhere. He clicked through nighttime images, a fox with a rabbit in its jaws, a lumbering bear scratching against a tree trunk, a pair of coyotes trotting along a game trail. The animals moved with purpose, without hesitation or regret. Unlike people, Rowan paused, frowning at the screen. Camera 7, positioned near the old logging road, showed headlights. A vehicle where none should be. He checked the timestamp, 11 p.m. Probably teenagers, he muttered. The next image made him choke on his coffee. A man in an expensive suit. A small child in a dark dress. The man returned to his vehicle. The child standing alone in the headlights. The child being abandoned. Jesus Christ, Rowan whispered. Checking the timestamp again. The footage was from 8 hours ago. He launched from his chair, knocking it backward onto the wooden floor. Within minutes, he had packed a backpack with essentials. Water bottles, energy bars, a first aid kit, and a thermal blanket. His military training kicked in, mind calculating survival scenarios while his hands moved efficiently. Child approximately 7-8 years old. Nighttime forest temperatures around 45 degrees. Light clothing. Possible hypothermia. Predator activity in the area. Limited visibility. He strapped his service pistol to his hip, not for any human threat, but for the four-legged kind that might see a small child as prey. Grabbing his GPS unit, he programmed in the coordinates from camera 7. As he swung into his Forest Service truck, Rowan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, Claire calling, his niece. She'd want an update on her investigative story about timber company violations. It would have to wait. The logging road was barely passable after the recent rains. Rowan's truck bounced through deep puddles, spraying mud across the undercarriage. His mind replayed the footage, the child's small silhouette, the man's casual stride back to his vehicle. The deliberate abandonment. Who leaves a child in a forest at midnight? His thoughts broke off as he reached the clearing. He killed the engine, scanning the area with trained eyes. The ground showed tire tracks, already filled with rainwater, but no child. Rowan stepped out, calling softly, "Hello, Forest Service? I'm here to help." Silence answered him, broken only by birdsong and wind through the canopy. He moved methodically, examining the clearing in expanding circles. A small footprint in the mud, then another, leading toward a massive pine tree at the edge of the clearing. That's where he found her. The child sat perfectly still at the base of the tree, soaked with dew, black dress muddied and torn, her eyes fixed on some middle distance, unseeing. In her arms, she clutched a bedraggled stuffed rabbit. "Hey there," Rowan said gently. "My name's Rowan. I'm a forest ranger." The girl didn't respond, didn't blink, didn't acknowledge his presence. "Are you hurt anywhere?" he asked. "Nothing. Just the slight rocking motion of her upper body, a self-soothing rhythm like the pendulum of a clock." Rowan glanced at her backpack, lying open beside her. The crackers were untouched. She hadn't eaten. "I'm going to come a little closer, okay?" When she didn't object, he inched forward until he could see her more clearly. No visible injuries, but her lips had a bluish tint, mild hypothermia setting in despite the relatively mild night. Her black patent leather shoes were caked with mud, one missing its buckle. "Can you tell me your name?" The girl's lips moved slightly. He leaned closer. "Mama's in the stars," she whispered. "Your mama's in the stars?" he repeated. "What about your dad?" At the word dad, a visible shudder passed through her small frame. She clutched the rabbit tighter. "Okay," Rowan said, making a quick decision. "I'm going to take you somewhere warm and safe. Is that all right?" No response, but when he slowly extended his hand, she didn't flinch away. Taking this as permission, Rowan gently lifted her, surprised at how little she weighed, like holding a bird, all hollow bones and fluttering heartbeat. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe now." As he carried her back to his truck, the girl remained unnaturally still, her eyes fixed on the forest canopy above them. Only when he placed her in the passenger seat did she speak again, a single word so soft he had to lean in to hear it. "Sarah." "Your name is Sarah?" Rowan confirmed. She gave the barest nod, then returned to silent rocking. Back at his cabin, Rowan moved with careful efficiency. He ran a warm bath, found an old flannel shirt that would serve as a makeshift dress, and prepared hot chocolate with the instant packets he kept for his niece's visits. Sarah allowed herself to be led through these ministrations with the passive compliance of shock. She drank the hot chocolate in tiny sips, her eyes constantly moving around the cabin's interior as if cataloging escape routes or sources of danger. "You're safe here," Rowan told her. "No one's going to hurt you." Once she was warm, dry, and seated at his kitchen table, Rowan faced a decision. The obvious next step was to call Child Protective Services, but something about the deliberate way the man, her father, had abandoned her made him hesitate. This wasn't a case of neglect or a parent at the end of their rope. This was calculated. He compromised by calling the non-emergency line for the county sheriff's department. "This is Ranger Hale from Valebrook Forest Service," he said. "I need to report an abandoned child I found in my jurisdiction. Can you verify your badge number?" the dispatcher asked. Rowan provided it, then continued. "The female, approximately 8 years old, identifies herself as Sarah, found near the old logging road off Highway 27. Evidence suggests deliberate abandonment by an adult male driving a black SUV." A long pause. "What? Hold for transfer, please." Rowan waited, watching as Sarah took a sheet of paper from the small notepad he'd given her and began drawing with intense concentration. "Ranger Hale?" A new voice came on the line. Male, authoritative. "This is Deputy Collins. Can you describe the child again?" Rowan frowned. "Female, about 8, brown hair, wearing what looks like a funeral dress, calls herself Sarah." Another pause. "And you say you found her in the forest, alone?" "Yes. With evidence she was deliberately left there overnight by an adult male." "I see." The deputy's tone shifted subtly. "We'll send someone to collect her." "What's your exact location?" Something felt wrong. The questions weren't focused on the child's welfare or identifying the perpetrator. "I'm at the North Ranger Station," Rowan lied smoothly. "Excellent. An officer will be there within the hour." The call ended. Rowan stared at the phone, then at Sarah, who was still drawing, seemingly oblivious to the conversation. The North Ranger Station was 20 miles away and currently unmanned for the season. If they sent someone there while he kept Sarah here at his cabin, he'd know something was definitely off. He moved to look over Sarah's shoulder at her drawing. His breath caught. She had drawn a house, a large one with many windows. At the bottom of a staircase, inside the house, lay a stick figure with long hair. At the top of the stairs stood a larger figure, male, arms outstretched as if he had pushed. Beneath the drawing, in careful block letters, she had written, "Daddy said no drawings." Rowan's military instincts kicked into high alert. This wasn't just about an abandoned child anymore. This was about a witness. In downtown Valebrook, the police station buzzed with unusual activity for a weekday morning. Officers huddled around the break room television where Damien Rowe's face filled the screen, his expression a masterclass in parental anguish. "I put her to bed around 9, he was saying, voice cracking with emotion. "When I went to check on her this morning, her window was open and she was gone. Please, if anyone has seen my daughter," he held up a school photograph of Sarah, her expression solemn, her eyes seeming to look through the camera rather than at it. "Serafina is autistic and nonverbal in stressful situations. She may not respond if approached. She's only 8 years old and has just lost her mother. She's all I have left." In the corner of the break room, Deputy Collins ended his call and approached Sheriff Dunham, speaking in low tones. "That forest ranger found her, just like Damien said he might. Claims he has evidence." The sheriff nodded thoughtfully. "Send Bridges and Kent to the North Station. Tell them to take their time. I'll call Damien." Claire Hale stared at her ringing phone with a mixture of irritation and concern. 3 missed calls from her uncle in the past hour was unusual. Rowan typically communicated in terse text messages spaced days apart, a habit left over from his military days when satellite phones were a luxury. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, stranger, what's so urgent that—" "Claire," Rowan interrupted, his voice tight in a way she recognized from childhood emergencies. "I need your help. No questions, not over the phone. Can you come to my cabin?" Now? Claire straightened in her chair, journalist instincts firing. I can be there in 40 minutes. Should I bring anything? Your camera. And Claire? Make sure you're not followed. The line went dead. Claire stared at her laptop screen where she'd been working on an exposé about the county's largest timber company and its illegal harvesting practices. The article suddenly seemed trivial compared to whatever had put that tone in her uncle's voice. She grabbed her camera bag, car keys, and the emergency go bag she kept ready, another habit she'd picked up from Rowan. At the cabin, Rowan watched through the window as Claire's Subaru appeared on the narrow dirt road. He'd spent the past hour securing the perimeter, checking and rechecking his weapons, and trying to coax more information from Sarah. The girl had drawn 3 more pictures, all variations on the same theme. A woman at the bottom of the stairs, a man at the top, sometimes with additional details, a broken vase, a bottle, a bracelet lying on the floor. Sarah, he asked gently, is this your mom? Did something happen to her on the stairs? Sarah didn't answer directly. Instead, she whispered to her rabbit, Mr. Hoppy knows. Mr. Hoppy saw. When Claire knocked their prearranged signal, 2 short raps, pause, 3 rapid taps, Rowan opened the door with his hand on his holstered pistol, relaxing only when he confirmed it was her alone. Uncle Ro, what the hell? Claire began, then stopped as she spotted Sarah at the table, still drawing intently. Oh my God, that's her, isn't it? The DA's daughter? Rowan pulled her farther inside, closing and locking the door behind her. It's not what the news is saying. I found her abandoned in the forest at dawn. I have footage of a man leaving her there deliberately last night. Her father? I think so. And I think he may have had something to do with his wife's death too. Claire's journalistic skepticism kicked in. That's a massive accusation, Roe. Damien Rowe is practically royalty in this county. Rowan gestured to Sarah's drawings spread across the table. Look at these. Really look. She's drawing the same scene over and over. Claire approached slowly, studying the pictures. Her face paled. A woman falling downstairs, or being pushed. His wife died from a fall down the stairs 3 days ago, Rowan said quietly. It was ruled an accident. You think Sarah witnessed it? That Damien killed his wife and then tried to get rid of the only witness by abandoning her in the forest? I called the sheriff's department. Their response was concerning. They seemed more interested in my location than in the fact that a child had been abandoned. Claire ran a hand through her hair, mind racing. If what you're suggesting is true, Rowe would have allies throughout local law enforcement. He personally hired half the department, which is why I called you instead of child services, Rowan said. We need to document everything before we go official, and we need to keep Sarah safe until we figure out who we can trust. Claire took out her camera, her expression shifting from shocked to determined. I'll photograph the drawings, get her on video explaining them if possible. You should download that wildlife camera footage before anyone else finds it. Rowan nodded, relieved to have an ally. There's more. When I mentioned her father on the phone to the deputy, I didn't specify it was Damien Rowe, but they're already searching for her at the North Station based on a tip from him. How did he know she might be found by a forest ranger unless he deliberately left her where my cameras are? He wanted her found eventually, Claire reasoned, but not immediately, long enough for hypothermia or predators to solve his problem. They both looked at Sarah, who had started a new drawing, this one showing a rabbit with oversized eyes. Mr. Hoppy sees everything, she whispered. Claire knelt beside her. Sarah? My name's Claire. I'm a friend. Can you tell me about Mr. Hoppy? Sarah continued coloring. Mommy put special eyes on Mr. Hoppy to watch over me when she couldn't be there. Rowan and Claire exchanged a glance. Claire gently touched the stuffed rabbit's glass eyes. Special eyes? What kind of special eyes, Sarah? Instead of answering, Sarah took the rabbit and turned it upside down. She pulled at a loose seam in its back, revealing a small bulge. With careful fingers, she extracted a tiny object and placed it on the table, a micro SD card. Mommy said if the bad days came, Mr. Hoppy would protect me, Sarah said. Mommy said the truth lives in Mr. Hoppy's heart. Claire stared at the memory card, then at the solemn-faced child. Your mom was a very smart lady, wasn't she? For the first time, Sarah smiled, a small, fleeting expression that transformed her face. The smartest, Daddy hated that most of all. Dr. Maren Voss locked the door to her office, drew the blinds, and unplugged the phone. Her hands trembled as she removed the memory card from her coat pocket and inserted it into her computer. The images appeared one by one, detailed photographs of Amelia Rowe's injuries, X-rays showing historical fractures, close-ups of defensive wounds on her wrists and forearms. Maren had documented everything meticulously before surrendering Amelia's body for burial, but it wasn't enough. She needed context, history, a pattern that would convince authorities beyond Valebrook that Damien Rowe was not the grieving widower he portrayed. Her office phone rang despite being unplugged. Maren froze, then realized it was the hospital's emergency override system, a feature used only for critical situations. She hesitated, then lifted the receiver. "Dr. Voss," she answered cautiously. "Maren." The voice belonged to Dr. Patel, Chief of Medicine. "You need to come to my office immediately. There are 2 detectives here with questions about Amelia Rowe's autopsy." "I'll be right there," she replied. She ejected the memory card, slipping it into a small envelope that she sealed and addressed to herself at her home address. Dropping it into the outgoing mail slot would ensure it left the hospital even if she was detained. As she walked toward Dr. Patel's office, Maren's phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "Looking for allies regarding the AR case. Call securely." Maren hesitated, then deleted the message. It could be a trap, someone fishing for accomplices in her investigation. Or it could be legitimate help. Either way, she couldn't risk responding now. Outside Dr. Patel's office stood 2 men in suits who didn't look like any detectives Maren had ever worked with. Their haircuts were too precise, their posture too rigid. Military or federal, not local law enforcement. "Dr. Voss," one greeted her with a thin smile. "We'd like to discuss some irregularities in your recent casework. Can you enhance this section?" Rowan asked, pointing to a dark area in the wildlife camera footage. Claire leaned closer to her laptop screen, adjusting the brightness and contrast. "There. You can just make out the license plate, Darrow Own. It's a vanity plate. Damien A. Rowe," Rowan confirmed grimly. "It's definitely him." They sat at Rowan's kitchen table, surrounded by evidence they'd spent the past 2 hours assembling. Sarah had finally fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from her ordeal. "The memory card from the rabbit is encrypted," Claire said, frustration evident in her voice. "I can't access whatever's on it without the password. Can you crack it?" "Given time, maybe." Rowan shook his head. "The sheriff's deputies will figure out I lied about being at the North Station soon. And once they report back to Rowe, he'll know we have her," Claire finished. "And the evidence." A soft sound from the doorway made them both turn. Sarah stood there. "Buttercup," she said distinctly. "What's that, Sarah?" Claire asked gently. "The password is Buttercup, Mommy's favorite flower." Claire typed quickly, and the encrypted files unlocked. It worked. She began scrolling through the contents. Hundreds of files organized into folders with dates going back 3 years. "My God," she whispered. Amelia was documenting everything. Audio recordings, photographs, medical records, journal entries. Rowan moved beside her, scanning the screen. She was building a case against him. "Smart woman," Claire murmured. Sarah climbed onto a chair beside them. "Mommy said if anything happened to her, Mr. Hoppy would tell the truth." Claire clicked on a video file dated just 1 week earlier. Amelia Rowe's face filled the screen, brown hair pulled back, eyes tired but determined. Her voice was soft, clearly recorded in secret. "If you're watching this, something has happened to me. Damien has threatened to kill me if I try to leave again. I've gathered evidence of his abuse over the past 3 years. Hospital visits disguised as accidents, financial records showing how he's isolated me from my family, recordings of his threats. The most damning evidence is in the Serafina folder, documentation of how he's deliberately misdiagnosed our daughter to control access to her. Sarah isn't severely autistic as he claims. She has selective mutism and sensory processing issues, primarily triggered by his abuse. When he's not home, she speaks, plays, and develops normally. I've included evaluations from specialists he doesn't know about. I was planning to take Sarah and this evidence to my sister in Oregon next week. If I didn't make it," her voice broke, "please protect my daughter, and make him pay for what he's done to us both." The video ended. Claire and Rowan sat in stunned silence. He didn't just kill his wife, Claire finally said. He's been systematically abusing and isolating both of them for years. Rowan's expression hardened. And he's powerful enough locally that no one would believe them over him. Sarah had returned to drawing, seemingly unaffected by her mother's video. But her picture had changed. Now she drew a house with a sun above it and 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's Aunt Lisa's house," she said, pointing to the drawing. "In Oregon, with the yellow door and the big tree for climbing. Mommy said we would live there and be happy." Claire's journalist instincts kicked in. "We need to contact Lisa. She might have additional information, and she's legally Sarah's next of kin if she's Amelia's sister." "Not yet," Rowan cautioned. "If Damien is monitoring her communications, reaching out could put her in danger too. First, we need to secure what we have and find someone outside Damien's influence who can help. I have a contact at the state police, Captain Richards. He's based in the capital, not locally. And he owes me a favor for keeping his daughter's DUI out of the papers last year. Can you trust him?" "More than anyone in the sheriff's department." Rowan checked his watch. "It's a 3-hour drive to the capital." A vehicle's headlights swept across the cabin windows. Rowan immediately dimmed the lights and moved to the window, peering carefully through the blinds. "Sheriff's Department, SUV," he reported tensely. Claire quickly gathered the evidence, downloading files to a secure cloud server as backup. "What's the plan?" "There's a root cellar under the tool shed out back, hidden trapdoor. Take Sarah and the evidence there. I'll deal with the deputies." Claire nodded, guiding Sarah toward the back door. "Come on, sweetie. We're going to play a hiding game, like with Mommy," Sarah said. Once they were safely outside, Rowan composed himself and opened the front door just as the deputies reached the porch. "Rangers hail?" one asked, hand resting casually near his holstered weapon. "Mind if we come in?" "Got a few questions about a missing child case." In downtown Valebrook, Dr. Maren Voss sat in her car in the hospital parking garage, hands gripping the steering wheel as she tried to control her breathing. The interview with the 2 agents had been polite but unmistakably threatening. They'd questioned every aspect of Amelia Rowe's autopsy, implying Maren had been negligent at best, deliberately misleading at worst. "Grief can make us see patterns that aren't there," one had said with a condescending smile. "District Attorney Rowe has suffered enough without false accusations complicating his wife's tragic accident." They'd left her with a clear warning: amend her findings to match the official accident report, or face an ethics investigation that would end her career. Her phone buzzed again with a text from the same unknown number. "Dr. Voss, this is Claire Hale, investigative journalist. I have evidence regarding Amelia Rowe's death and information about her daughter. Meet at West Side Diner in 30 mins if interested. Come alone." Maren stared at the message, calculating risks. Claire Hale. She recognized the name from newspaper bylines exposing corruption in the timber industry. The woman had a reputation for fearlessness and integrity, and right now, Maren needed an ally who wasn't afraid of powerful enemies. She started her car and headed for the diner. "Rangers Hale, your call to the sheriff's office this morning about finding a child was concerning," Deputy Bridges said, sitting stiffly on Rowan's couch. "Concerning how?" Rowan asked. "I reported an abandoned child, as required by law. Yet when officers arrived at the North Station, you weren't there," Deputy Kent added. "Care to explain that?" "I realized the child needed medical attention and headed toward town," Rowan lied. "When I couldn't reach dispatch again, I brought her to a doctor I know. She's being treated now." The deputies exchanged glances. "Which doctor?" Bridges asked. "Dr. Sullivan at the urgent care clinic," Rowan said, naming a physician who had retired 2 years earlier. If they checked, and he was certain they would, the inconsistency would buy him time. "We'll need to take the child into protective custody," Kent said. "Her father is worried sick." "Of course," Rowan nodded. "As soon as Dr. Sullivan clears her. The poor thing was hypothermic and dehydrated when I found her. Abandoned all night in the forest. Can you believe it? Whoever left her there should be charged with attempted murder." "You mentioned having evidence of the abandonment," Bridges said. "Happy to provide it," Rowan said, moving to his laptop. He made a show of searching through files, buying time. "That's odd. The file seems to be corrupted. Must have been the power surge during last night's storm, but I can show you where the camera is located so your tech team can retrieve the original footage. That won't be necessary, Kent said. Just bring the child to the station when the doctor releases her. Will do, Rowan agreed pleasantly. Should I ask for Sheriff Dunham specifically, or will District Attorney Rowe be there himself? The threat was thinly veiled. The deputies retreated to their vehicle without further questions. As soon as they were gone, Rowan moved swiftly to the tool shed. Claire, they're gone. The trapdoor opened, Claire's face appearing in the narrow opening. We heard everything. Quick thinking with the doctor's story. It won't hold for long. They'll check, find out Sullivan retired, and be back with reinforcements. Claire helped Sarah up from the cellar. The girl looked pale but calm. The bad man sent his helpers, she observed quietly. Like before with Mommy. Rowan and Claire exchanged concerned glances. Before? Claire prompted gently. When Mommy tried to leave, Sarah explained. The men in uniforms brought us back. Daddy said they would always bring us back because he owns them. Rowan's expression hardened. We're not going to let that happen again, Sarah. I promise. Claire checked her phone. I've set up a meeting with Dr. Voss, the medical examiner who did Amelia's autopsy. A text came through while we were hiding. She might have medical evidence we can use. Too risky to meet in town, Rowan said. There's an abandoned fire watchtower at the edge of your jurisdiction, Claire suggested. Rowan nodded. We'll take my truck. The back roads through the Forest Service land aren't monitored. As they prepared to leave, Sarah tugged at Claire's hand, her expression suddenly urgent. We need to bring my drawings. All of them. Mommy said, pictures tell stories when words get stuck. Your mom was right, Sarah. And your pictures are going to help tell a very important story. The fire watchtower stood sentinel on a rocky outcropping, its weathered frame silhouetted against the darkening sky. Abandoned years ago, when satellite monitoring replaced human fire spotters, it offered a panoramic view of Valebrook Forest and the town beyond. Rowan parked his truck in the natural depression behind the tower, hidden from the access road. Claire helped Sarah from the vehicle while Rowan secured the perimeter, old military habits resurfacing in the crisis. No other vehicles, he reported. If your Dr. Voss is coming, she's not here yet. They climbed the metal stairs to the observation deck, footsteps echoing in the stillness. The small glass-enclosed room at the top contained only a dusty desk, a broken chair, and a pair of rusted binoculars mounted on a swivel stand. We can see anyone approaching from here, Claire noted. Sarah went straight to the binoculars, standing on tiptoe to reach them. I can see our house, she announced, and Daddy's car in the driveway. Rowan joined her, gently taking over the binoculars. Indeed, the Rowe mansion was visible in the distance, its white columns distinctive even from miles away. And in the circular driveway sat not one but 3 black SUVs. He has company, Rowan observed. Claire's phone chimed with a text. Dr. Voss is 5 minutes out. She says she's driving a blue Honda Civic. I'll meet her at the base of the tower, Rowan decided. As Rowan descended the stairs, Claire set up her laptop, organizing their evidence while Sarah returned to drawing, her crayons moving across the paper with determined precision. What are you drawing now? Claire asked. The men who hurt Mommy, Sarah replied. On the page, she had drawn 4 figures surrounding a woman. One was clearly Damien, taller than the others. The remaining 3 wore what looked like uniforms. These men hurt your mom? They came to our house sometimes. Daddy and the men would go to his study and lock the door. But I could hear them through the vent in my closet. What did they talk about? Money. And children. Sarah's crayon moved faster, adding details to the uniforms, badges, shoulder patches. They wanted special children, quiet ones no one would miss. A chill ran through Claire as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about domestic abuse and murder. This was something larger, something organized. The sound of footsteps on the metal stairs interrupted her thoughts. Rowan appeared first, followed by a petite woman with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a severe bun. Dr. Maren Voss, she introduced herself. Hello, Serafina. Do you remember me? I was your mother's doctor a few times. Sarah studied the woman's face. You gave me cherry lollipops and didn't make me talk. That's right, she turned to Claire and Rowan. I've been documenting Amelia's injuries for over 2 years. She came to me specifically because I worked the night shift and could treat her without it appearing in the main hospital records. You knew Damien was abusing her? Claire asked. I suspected, but Amelia would never confirm it. She always had plausible explanations. A fall while running, hitting her head on a cabinet door. But the pattern was unmistakable to anyone with training in domestic violence injuries. Dr. Voss removed a flash drive from her pocket. Everything I've documented is here, including the autopsy findings that don't match the official report. Amelia didn't die from a simple fall down the stairs. The angle of the fracture at the base of her skull is consistent with a forceful impact, as if someone slammed her head against something hard. And there were defensive wounds on her arms indicating she was trying to protect herself. Claire connected the flash drive to her laptop. This corroborates what we found on Amelia's memory card. She was planning to leave him and take Sarah to Oregon, and he killed her to prevent that. Dr. Voss finished, then tried to eliminate the only witness by abandoning her in the forest. Rowan, who had been keeping watch at the windows, suddenly tensed. Vehicle approaching. Black SUV, no markings. Claire quickly closed the laptop. Sheriff's Department? Can't tell. Dr. Voss paled. After I left the hospital, I noticed a car following me. I thought I lost them, but they must have tracked your phone, Claire realized. Rowan was already gathering their belongings. There's a maintenance ladder on the back side of the tower. It leads down to a service trail. If we can reach my truck. The sound of tires on gravel cut him off. The SUV had arrived at the base of the tower. Too late, he muttered. Get behind the desk, all of you. Sarah suddenly spoke up. It's not the sheriff, she said. It's the other men, the ones who take children. Before anyone could respond, heavy footsteps sounded on the metal stairs, multiple sets, moving quickly. Rowan positioned himself between the stairs and the others, weapon raised. Federal agents, a voice called out. Lower your weapon, Ranger Hale. Show me identification, Rowan demanded. FBI Special Agents Morgan and Shing, the first man said. We've been investigating District Attorney Damien Rowe for over a year as part of a multi-state human trafficking operation. We believe his wife uncovered evidence of his involvement, which led to her murder. Claire stepped forward cautiously. Prove you're really FBI. Agent Shing nodded to his partner, who slowly reached into his jacket and removed a satellite phone. Call this number. It's the direct line to our field office in the capital. Ask for Assistant Director Patel. She'll confirm our identities and operation. Claire took the phone, keeping her distance as she dialed. After a brief conversation, she lowered the phone, visibly relieved. They're legitimate. Rowan lowered his weapon slightly. How did you find us? We've had Dr. Voss under surveillance since she began asking questions about Amelia Rowe's autopsy, Agent Morgan explained. When she suddenly left town after being interrogated by two men claiming to be detectives, men we recognized as Rowe's private security, we followed her. Private security with police connections, Dr. Voss added bitterly. They threatened my career if I didn't change my autopsy findings. Agent Shing turned to Sarah. Hello, Serafina. We've been looking for you. You're very brave, you know that? Sarah regarded him solemnly, then held out her latest drawing. These are the men who hurt children. Daddy works with them. The agents examined the drawing. She's drawn the insignia perfectly, Shing murmured. How could she know that? I listen, Sarah said simply. I remember. Mommy said that was my superpower. We need to get Sarah and this evidence to a secure location immediately. Rowe has realized his daughter is not only alive, but potentially in possession of incriminating evidence. He's activated every resource at his disposal to find her. Including the sheriff's department? Rowan asked. Some deputies, yes. Not all. Claire gestured to her laptop. We have comprehensive evidence, not just of Amelia's murder, but possibly of this larger operation too. Amelia was methodically documenting everything. Smart woman, Agent Morgan said. What happens to Sarah now? Rowan asked. Protective custody initially, Agent Shing said. Then placement with her aunt in Oregon once we've confirmed the aunt's safety and suitability. Sarah, who had been listening intently, suddenly spoke up. Aunt Lisa has yellow curtains in the kitchen and a cat named Pancake. She sends me birthday cards with butterflies on them. Mommy said she would help us. Agent Morgan smiled. We'll find Aunt Lisa and her cat Pancake, I promise. As they prepared to leave, Sarah gathered her drawings with methodical care, ensuring each one was safely stored in Claire's bag. Her final action was to tuck Mr. Hoppy securely under her arm. "Mommy was right," she said as Rowan lifted her to carry her down the narrow stairs. The truth was strong enough to win, even against Daddy. The FBI safe house was a nondescript ranch-style home in a middle-class neighborhood 30 miles from Valebrook. With its tidy lawn and ceramic garden gnome, it blended perfectly with surrounding houses, exactly as intended. Inside, the living room had been transformed into an operational center. Laptops, secure phones, and evidence boards filled the space. Agents moved purposefully between rooms, speaking in hushed, efficient tones. In the kitchen, Sarah sat at the table with a child psychologist specially trained in trauma cases. Her drawings spread between them like colorful puzzle pieces. "And who is this person?" Dr. Winters asked, pointing to a figure in one of the sketches. "That's Judge Carson," Sarah replied. "He comes to our house for dinner and talks about children with Daddy." In the adjacent dining room, Agent Morgan conferred with Claire, Rowan, and Dr. Voss, keeping his voice low. "Sarah's drawings are providing us with names and connections we've suspected but couldn't prove," he explained. "Judge Carson has been on our radar for months. He's presided over dozens of custody cases where children were placed with questionable guardians who later disappeared with them. She has a photographic memory," Dr. Voss observed. "Amelia mentioned it during one of her hospital visits. She said Damien tried to present it as part of Sarah's condition, but Amelia recognized it as an extraordinary gift. A gift that makes her an exceptional witness," Claire added. Agent Shing entered, carrying a secure tablet. "We've made contact with Lisa Harmon, Amelia's sister in Oregon. She's been looking for Amelia and Sarah for nearly 2 years. Damien told her they'd moved to Europe and wanted no contact with her. Classic isolation tactic," Dr. Winters commented, joining the adults while Sarah continued drawing at the table. "Ms. Harmon has agreed to emergency guardianship," Agent Shing continued. "What about Damien?" Rowan asked. "It's complicated," Agent Morgan admitted. "We're building an airtight case before moving against him. Rowe isn't just any corrupt official. He has connections at the state and possibly federal level. We need to ensure when we move, we can contain the entire network. So he's still out there," Claire said, "free to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses." "Not for long," Agent Shing assured her. "Your evidence, combined with what Sarah has provided, has accelerated our timeline significantly. We're coordinating with the state attorney general for warrants as we speak." A junior agent appeared in the doorway. "Sir, you need to see this." He handed over a tablet displaying a live news broadcast. Damien Rowe stood on the steps of the Valebrook courthouse, looking appropriately haggard and emotional. "My daughter has been found," he announced to the gathered reporters, his voice catching with rehearsed emotion. "But she is being kept from me by individuals who are using her vulnerability and her mother's tragic death to manipulate her. These people," he paused dramatically, "have fed her stories and confused her fragile mind in service of their vendetta against me." The camera panned to show enlarged photographs of Rowan, Claire, and Dr. Voss displayed on easels beside him. Forest Ranger Rowan Hale, journalist Claire Hale, and medical examiner Maren Voss have conspired to abduct my daughter and fabricate evidence against me. I am announcing a $50,000 reward for information leading to my daughter's safe return and their arrest. "Son of a bitch," Rowan muttered. "He's trying to control the narrative," Claire analyzed. "We need to respond," Dr. Voss insisted. "Let me go public with the autopsy findings." Agent Morgan shook his head. "That would expose our operation prematurely. Rowe is baiting us, trying to force our hand. So we do nothing while he turns us into public enemies?" Claire demanded. "Not nothing," Agent Shing corrected. "We accelerate." "Agent Morgan, I think it's time to implement Protocol Sunlight." Morgan looked surprised but nodded. "I'll call the director." While the agents conferred privately, Sarah approached the adults, a new drawing in hand. This one showed a building with many small rooms, each containing a stick-figure child. "This is where they keep them," she said, her voice unnervingly calm. "Under the place with the blue roof. Daddy has a special key." Claire studied the drawing. "Sarah, do you know where this building is?" "By the water, where the big boats bring things at night. The county marina," Rowan realized. Claire snapped a photo of the drawing with her phone, then quickly searched online. Blue roof. There. Valebrook Cold Storage. It's a seafood processing facility, owned by, she paused, owned by Dunham Enterprises. Sheriff Dunham's family business. Agent Morgan returned. We've got authorization for Protocol Sunlight. Ms. Hale, how quickly can you publish a story? Claire straightened. Depends on the story, but my editor can have something online within the hour. Good. We're going to give you exclusive access to certain aspects of our investigation, enough to establish the legitimacy of the evidence against Rowe without compromising our larger case. The sunlight of public scrutiny will force him to respond defensively rather than offensively. What about Sarah's safety? Rowan asked. We're moving her tonight, Agent Shing explained. Secure transport to Oregon is already arranged. In fact, he checked his watch. The advance team should be arriving at her aunt's house now to secure the perimeter. I want to go with her, Rowan said, at least until she's settled. She trusts me. The agents considered this. It's irregular, Morgan admitted, but not unreasonable given the circumstances. Dr. Winters, your professional opinion? Sarah has formed an attachment to Ranger Hale as her rescuer. Having him present during the transition would provide valuable continuity and security. Then it's settled, Agent Shing decided. Ranger Hale will accompany Sarah to Oregon tonight. Dr. Voss will be moved to a different safe house as a precaution. And Miss Hale, he turned to Claire, you'll work with our media liaison to craft your story. We need to be extremely precise about what information goes public. Claire nodded, already mentally composing her headline. I know exactly how to frame this. At the Valebrook Sheriff's Department, Damien Rowe paced the floor of Sheriff Dunham's private office, his public mask of concerned father momentarily discarded. How hard is it to find one child and 3 civilians? He demanded. Sheriff Dunham, a heavy-set man with thinning hair and a perpetually flushed face, mopped his brow with a handkerchief. We've got every available deputy searching, Damien. But if the feds are involved... If the feds were officially involved, they would have arrested me already, Damien snapped. This is a rogue operation at best. Probably some ambitious agents working outside their jurisdiction. All the same, Dunham persisted, we should consider contingency plans. If your daughter talks... My daughter is a diagnosed autistic child with severe communication deficits, Damien interrupted coldly. Her testimony would never be admissible even if she could formulate coherent sentences, which she cannot. But the medical examiner is facing an ethics investigation for falsifying autopsy findings, Damien finished. Her credibility is already compromised. As for the forest ranger and the journalist, they're clearly motivated by personal animus and financial gain. The public narrative is already established. Sheriff Dunham nodded. What about the facility? Should we move the operation? No. Moving now would only draw attention. Increase security instead. Double the guards and accelerate processing of the current inventory. The buyers are getting impatient. A sharp knock at the door interrupted them. Deputy Collins entered without waiting for permission, his expression tense. Sir, you need to see this. He placed a tablet on the desk, displaying a breaking news alert from the Valebrook Gazette's website. The headline made both men freeze. Exclusive. DA Damien Rowe implicated in wife's murder and child trafficking ring. Beneath it was a photograph of Amelia Rowe's bruised body on an autopsy table, alongside Sarah's drawing of the warehouse by the marina. How the hell? Dunham began. Damien snatched up the tablet, scanning the article with growing fury. The piece was methodically damning. It cited official medical records, detailed Amelia's documented injuries over years, included stills from the wildlife camera showing him abandoning Sarah, and quoted unnamed federal sources confirming an ongoing investigation into a multi-state trafficking operation centered in Valebrook. Most devastating was the sidebar featuring Sarah's drawings, each one annotated with explanations of what they depicted and how they correlated with actual events and locations. The journalist, Damien hissed. She's gone public with everything. His phone rang, his private line, used only by his most important associates. The caller ID showed only a series of numbers. What is the meaning of this? Demanded the voice on the other end. We were assured your personal issues would not compromise the operation. A minor setback, Damien replied. The journalist has no hard evidence, only a child's drawings and speculative connections. Yet she names the warehouse specifically, the voice countered, and mentions the shipment scheduled for tonight. You assured us your wife's meddling had been contained. It has been. This is simply damage control is now our priority, the voice interrupted. The contingency plan is being activated. You have 1 hour to secure your end and relocate to the designated safe house. After that, you're on your own. The line went dead. Damien stared at the phone, then at Sheriff Dunham, whose florid face had drained of color. Richard, Damien said with deadly calm, call in every deputy loyal to you. We're implementing scorched earth. Claire hit publish on the final update to her exposé, then sat back with grim satisfaction. Within minutes, her phone began ringing incessantly. Other journalists, editors, producers, all seeking confirmation or additional details. The story's gone national, Agent Morgan confirmed. Every major outlet is picking it up. CNN is leading with it on the hour. What's Rose's response? Claire asked. Nothing yet, which is telling. No immediate denial, no legal threat. He's regrouping. A junior agent entered the room. Sir, we've got movement at the marina. Satellite imagery shows increased activity around the cold storage facility. They're clearing out, Agent Shing surmised. How long until the tactical team is in position? 20 minutes, minimum. Too long, Claire interjected. Look at this. She held up her phone, displaying a traffic alert app. Multiple road closures around Valebrook. Sheriff's Department citing public safety exercise as the reason. They're establishing a perimeter, Agent Morgan realized, controlling who can enter or leave the town while they sanitize the evidence. Our transport for Sarah leaves in 30 minutes, Agent Shing reminded them. We need to move her now, before those roadblocks extend to our location. In the kitchen, Rowan helped Sarah pack her few belongings, her drawings, Mr. Hoppy, and a change of clothes provided by the FBI. Are you ready for our trip? Rowan asked gently. Sarah nodded. We're going to Aunt Lisa's house with the yellow door. And you're coming to make sure I'm safe. That's right, and Mr. Hoppy too, of course. Sarah zipped the backpack carefully. Daddy will be very angry. Your dad can't hurt you anymore, Rowan assured her. Not me, Sarah clarified, looking up. He doesn't care about me. He's angry about the children in the cold place. They're worth a lot of money. Before Rowan could respond to this chilling statement, Agent Shing appeared in the doorway. Transport's ready. We need to leave now. There's a situation developing. Rowan scooped Sarah into his arms, sensing the urgency. What kind of situation? Roadblocks appearing all over town. And we just intercepted a sheriff's department communication. They've been ordered to detain anyone attempting to leave the county, using force if necessary. In the living room, organized chaos reigned as agents secured evidence and prepared for departure. Dr. Voss was already being escorted to a separate vehicle, her face pale but determined. Claire approached Rowan and Sarah, phone in hand. My editor says the story's crashing their servers from traffic. People are demanding answers. Local residents are reporting deputies going door to door in Sarah's neighborhood, claiming to be conducting a wellness check but actually searching homes. All the more reason to get Sarah out immediately, Agent Morgan said, joining them. Ranger Hale, you and Sarah will go with Agents Fletcher and Diaz in the black SUV. They'll take you to the airfield, where a bureau plane is waiting. Rowan nodded, tightening his hold on Sarah protectively. Claire, you'll come with me and Agent Shing to a different safe house. Claire hesitated, looking at her uncle and Sarah. Will they be safe? Absolutely, Agent Morgan assured her. A flurry of final preparations, and then it was time. As Rowan carried Sarah toward the waiting SUV, the girl suddenly stiffened in his arms. Wait, she said urgently. I need to tell Claire something important. Claire approached, kneeling to eye level. What is it, Sarah? Daddy has a special room in our house, Sarah whispered. Behind the bookcase in his study, you push the blue book about boats, and it opens. That's where he keeps his real work. Mommy never knew about it. Claire glanced at Agent Morgan, who was already making a note. Thank you, Sarah. That's very helpful. You'll be careful? Sarah asked. Daddy hurts people who know his secrets. I'll be careful, Claire promised. Sarah nodded solemnly, then reached out to touch Claire's cheek in a gesture so tender it brought tears to the journalist's eyes. Mommy would have liked you. Sarah said simply. Then she was gone, carried to the waiting SUV by Rowan, secured in a booster seat, surrounded by armed agents trained to protect her at all costs. Claire watched the vehicle disappear down the street, a knot of worry tightening in her chest despite the professional reassurances. "They'll be fine," Agent Xing said. "Now we need to focus on our next move." The evidence Sarah just provided about the hidden room could be the key to unraveling the entire network. Claire nodded. "Let's finish what Amelia started." The black SUV carrying Sarah and Rowan navigated suburban streets with practiced precision, taking an indirect route toward the private airfield 20 miles outside Valebrook. Agent Fletcher drove, while Agent Diaz monitored communications and kept a vigilant eye on their surroundings. "Roadblock reported on Highway 16, came a voice through the secure radio. "Copy that," Agent Fletcher replied. In the back seat, Rowan kept Sarah engaged with simple games, counting passing cars, spotting animals, anything to distract from the tension thrumming through the vehicle. 9 red cars, Sarah reported diligently. 4 dogs. 1 horse. "You've got good eyes," Rowan praised. "We've got a tail," Agent Diaz announced quietly. "Black pickup, 2 car lengths back. Been with us since we turned off Maple Street." Agent Fletcher checked the rearview mirror. "Sheriff's Department?" "Unmarked. Can't confirm occupants." "Evasive measures," Fletcher decided, accelerating slightly. "There's a shopping center coming up on the right. We'll lose them in the parking structure." The SUV turned sharply into a multi-level parking garage attached to a bustling mall. Fletcher navigated up the ramps, taking seemingly random turns, doubling back, all while maintaining a speed that wouldn't attract attention from civilians. "I think we lost them," Diaz reported. "No sign of the pickup. We'll exit on the opposite side, just to be sure," Fletcher decided, heading down toward a different exit than the one they'd entered. As they approached the exit gate, Rowan felt a prickling sensation at the base of his skull, the same warning sense that had kept him alive during his military service. "Something's not right," he murmured. "What do you mean?" Agent Diaz asked. Before Rowan could answer, Sarah pointed toward the parking attendant booth. "That's not a real parking person," she said. "He's one of Daddy's friends." "The one with the scar on his neck." Both agents reacted immediately, Fletcher throwing the SUV into reverse as Diaz drew his weapon, but it was too late. The exit gate had already lowered behind them, boxing them in. The parking attendant emerged from the booth, revealing not a uniform but tactical gear. He raised what looked like a bulky pistol and fired, not bullets, but some kind of projectile that was attached to the SUV's hood with a metallic thunk. "EMP device," Fletcher shouted as the vehicle's electronics suddenly went dead, engines stalling, communications silenced. In the sudden stillness, they heard vehicles converging from multiple directions. "Secondary transport protocol," Diaz ordered. "Already moving. Ranger Hale, take the child. Northeast stairwell. We'll cover." Rowan unbuckled Sarah and lifted her into his arms. "Hold tight to me," he instructed. Sarah complied instantly, wrapping herself around him with practiced ease, as if they'd rehearsed this scenario. Perhaps, in her mind, they had. The agents provided covering fire, not lethal rounds but disorienting flashbangs that filled the structure with blinding light and deafening noise. In the chaos, Rowan sprinted for the stairwell, Sarah's face pressed against his shoulder to shield her from the sensory assault. 3 flights down, exit to the food court, Diaz called after them. "The extraction team will meet you at the service entrance behind the Chinese restaurant." Rowan didn't waste breath responding. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his former military training kicking in fully now. Above them, gunfire erupted, real bullets this time, not diversionary tactics. "They're shooting Agent Fletcher and Agent Diaz," Sarah observed. "Don't look," Rowan urged. "Just hold on to me." They burst through the stairwell door into the bustling food court, immediately swallowed by the crowd of afternoon shoppers. Rowan slowed his pace to avoid drawing attention, moving purposefully toward the back of the Chinese restaurant as instructed. 15 people looking at phones, Sarah counted against his shoulder. 7 children, 4 security cameras. Her running inventory of their surroundings might have seemed odd in any other context, but Rowan realized she was processing her fear the only way she knew how, by cataloging, analyzing, creating order from chaos. Almost there. He encouraged her. Employees only, behind the Golden Dragon restaurant. A narrow hallway led to a loading dock where deliveries arrived. It was empty except for stacked boxes and a single dumpster. No extraction team. They should be here, Rowan muttered, checking his watch. Had they arrived too early? Or had the team been intercepted as well? A door slammed somewhere behind them, followed by the sound of rapid footsteps. Hide, Rowan decided instantly, looking for options. The dumpster was too obvious. The stacked boxes offered minimal concealment. But there, a ventilation shaft cover near the floor, large enough for Sarah but too small for an adult. Sarah, he said urgently, setting her down. I need you to be very brave. See that vent? I want you to crawl inside and stay absolutely quiet. Don't come out unless you hear me, or Agent Xing or Claire call for you. Understand? You're not coming with me. I can't fit, but I'll lead them away from you. The extraction team will find you. They have thermal imaging equipment. They'll see you there. The footsteps grew louder. Mr. Hoppy stays with you, Sarah decided, for protection. The gesture nearly broke him. This child, facing unimaginable danger, was worried about his safety. I'll keep him safe, Rowan promised. Now, go, quickly. Sarah slipped into the dark opening with surprising agility, her small form disappearing into the shadows. Rowan replaced the cover loosely, then strategically placed a box to partially obscure it from casual observation. The door at the end of the hallway burst open. Rowan sprinted in the opposite direction, making enough noise to ensure he was spotted, clutching the stuffed rabbit conspicuously as he ran. The pursuing footsteps immediately changed course to follow him. He's got the kid! South exit! A voice shouted into the radio. Rowan smiled grimly. The misdirection was working. Now he just needed to stay alive long enough for the real extraction team to find Sarah. The state courthouse in the capital stood like a marble monument to justice, imposing, symmetrical, indifferent to the human dramas that unfolded within its walls. Today, however, even the stoic building seemed to vibrate with tension as dozens of news vans lined the street and protesters gathered on the steps, holding signs with Sarah's school photograph and slogans demanding justice. Inside Courtroom 3, Judge Melissa Watkins presided over the emergency hearing with the stern efficiency that had earned her the nickname Iron Melissa among the legal community. Before her stood Damian Rowe, no longer in control but in custody, his tailored suit replaced by a county jail jumpsuit, his wrists shackled at his waist. Mr. Rowe, Judge Watkins addressed him. You're appearing before this court on charges of first-degree murder, child endangerment, obstruction of justice, and human trafficking. Given the gravity of these charges and the evidence presented by the State Attorney General's office, how do you plead? Damian's attorney, not his usual representation, but a hastily acquired high-profile defense lawyer from the Capitol, stepped forward. Your Honor, before entering a plea, we request that evidence obtained illegally through the orchestrated abduction of my client's daughter be suppressed. Serafina Rowe was manipulated by individuals with clear animus toward my client, Mr. Lowell, the judge interrupted. We're not at the evidence suppression phase. I'm simply asking for your client's plea at this time. The attorney conferred briefly with Damian, whose expression remained impassive. Not guilty on all counts, Your Honor, Lowell finally declared. And we further move for immediate bail consideration. Mr. Rowe has deep ties to the community and poses no flight risk. At the prosecution table, State Attorney General Rebecca Santos rose. Your Honor, the state vehemently opposes any bail in this case. Mr. Rowe has access to considerable resources, connections across state lines, and has already demonstrated a willingness to eliminate witnesses. Furthermore, as the court has been informed in our sealed briefing, Mr. Rowe is implicated in an ongoing federal investigation involving a multi-state trafficking network. The risk to public safety and the integrity of that investigation cannot be overstated. Judge Watkins nodded. I've reviewed the sealed materials, Ms. Santos. Mr. Lowell, bail is denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. For the first time, Damian's composure cracked slightly, a tightening around the eyes, a flexing of the jaw. He leaned toward his attorney, whispering urgently. Your Honor, Lowell tried again. My client requests permission to address the court briefly. Judge Watkins considered this. "You may proceed, Mr. Rowe, but I caution you that anything you say can and will be used in subsequent proceedings." Damien rose, the chains at his wrists clinking softly. Gone was the desperate father from the press conference, replaced by something colder, more calculated. "Your Honor," he began, "I understand the serious nature of these accusations, but I would ask the court to consider the source. My daughter, while precious to me, suffers from a documented medical condition that affects her perception of reality. The individuals who abducted her, particularly Ranger Hale and Ms. Hale, have manipulated her confusion following her mother's tragic accident to construct an elaborate fiction." He paused, scanning the courtroom until his gaze settled on Claire, seated in the front row beside Agent Shing. When he continued, his voice had dropped to a more intimate tone, as if sharing a confidence. "You think you saved her. You think you're a hero. But you've got no idea how this works." He leaned slightly toward the microphone. "Power doesn't live in the truth. It lives in what people choose to believe. And trust me, they'll believe me." A murmur rippled through the courtroom at this thinly veiled threat. Judge Watkins rapped her gavel once. "Mr. Rowe, you would be well advised to save your statements for trial. Bailiffs, please return the defendant to custody." As the officers led Damien away, he maintained eye contact with Claire until the last possible moment. Claire suppressed a shiver. Even in defeat, Damien Rowe exuded the confidence of a man with hidden advantages. "He's bluffing," Agent Shing murmured beside her. Claire wasn't so sure. "Have you located all his associates yet? We're making progress." The raid on the cold storage facility yielded significant evidence, and several of Sheriff Dunham's deputies have agreed to cooperate in exchange for reduced charges. But there are still missing pieces, particularly regarding the higher-level connections. What about the secret room Sarah mentioned, behind the bookcase in Rowe's study? "Search teams found it last night," Agent Shing confirmed. "Hidden compartment behind a false wall. Financial records, communication logs, client lists, all heavily encrypted, but our tech team is working on it." "And Sarah, is she safe?" "She arrived in Oregon this morning. Ranger Hale is with her. After that incident at the mall, we implemented maximum security protocols. The safe house location is known only to the director and the immediate protection team." "What happens next?" she asked, as they exited the courtroom. "Now we build the case," Agent Shing explained. "With Rowe in custody and the immediate danger contained, we can focus on methodically mapping the entire network. Your reporting has been instrumental in keeping public attention focused and preventing any political interference." Claire's phone vibrated with an incoming call, her editor, undoubtedly seeking an update on the hearing. But before she could answer, a text message appeared from an unknown number. "Not over. Check the judge's campaign donors from 2016. Follow the money to the Helix Foundation. Friend." She showed the message to Agent Shing, who immediately placed a call to his team. "We need a financial background check on Judge Watkins, specifically campaign contributions from 2016 and any connection to an organization called Helix Foundation." As they walked toward the exit, Claire noticed a custodian watching them with unusual intensity. When their eyes met, the man quickly looked away, but not before Claire registered something familiar in his features. "That man," she said quietly to Agent Shing. "I've seen him before, in one of Sarah's drawings." "Which one?" "The custodian by the water fountain. He's in Sarah's drawing of Daddy's Friends, the one with the scar on his neck." Agent Shing touched his earpiece, murmuring instructions to the security team. Within seconds, two plainclothes agents converged on the custodian from opposite directions, but the man was already moving, abandoning his cleaning cart, and heading for a side door marked "Emergency Exit Only." An alarm blared as he pushed through it, sprinting down the exterior stairs. "Stay here," Agent Shing ordered Claire. Claire naturally did no such thing. Her journalistic instincts overrode caution as she followed at a safe distance, phone in hand to document whatever unfolded. The chase led to an underground parking garage where the man leapt into a waiting car that immediately accelerated toward the exit. Agent Shing and his team were forced to dive out of the way as the vehicle crashed through the security barrier. "Did you get the plate?" Agent Shing asked as Claire approached. "Better," she replied. "I got his face." clear enough for facial recognition. Agent Xing's expression was a mixture of admiration and exasperation. You were supposed to stay upstairs and miss the chance to identify another member of Ro's network? Before they could debate further, Xing's phone rang. After a brief conversation, his face paled. What is it? That background check on Judge Watkins. The Helix Foundation was her largest campaign donor in 2016, and Helix is a subsidiary of a holding company owned by Senator James Westfield, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Claire realized, the one who's been calling for an independent review of the FBI's handling of this case. Calling for us to back off, more specifically, Agent Xing corrected. In Oregon, the safe house was a small cabin nestled among towering pines, remote enough for security but close enough to civilization for convenience. A river burbled cheerfully behind the property, its constant music soothing to Sarah, who sat on the porch swing drawing the landscape with careful attention to detail. Inside, Rowan spoke quietly with Aunt Lisa, a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Amelia, with the same gentle eyes and determined chin. The family resemblance extended to Sarah. Seeing aunt and niece together made the connection unmistakable. She's been through so much, Lisa said, but she's stronger than anyone realizes. Just like her mother. She saved herself as much as we saved her, Rowan agreed. Her memory, her drawings, her courage. Without those, we might never have uncovered what was happening. The FBI agents said you can stay as long as needed, Lisa told him. Rowan nodded, touched by the offer but aware of his responsibilities back in Valebrook. I should return once the protection detail is fully established. Claire might need my help with the ongoing investigation. Your niece sounds remarkable, Lisa observed. It runs in the family, Rowan said. Claire never could turn away from injustice, even as a kid. Their conversation was interrupted by Sarah entering with her latest drawing, a detailed rendering of the cabin, the surrounding forest, and 3 figures on the porch, Sarah, Lisa, and Rowan. In the sky above, a 4th figure floated among stars, watching over them. Mommy can see us from heaven, Sarah explained. She's happy we're together. Lisa blinked back tears. I think you're right, sweetheart. She's very happy. Rowan's phone vibrated with an incoming call, Claire's number. He stepped outside to answer, instantly concerned by the urgency in her voice. Uncle Ro, are you somewhere private? Yes. What's wrong? Everything we thought we knew about this case just expanded. The network protecting Ro goes all the way to the Senate. And there was an incident at the courthouse. One of Ro's associates was posing as custodial staff, watching the proceedings. Is the safe house location secure? For now, but we can't take chances. Agent Xing is sending a new protection team, completely separate personnel from anyone who knew your location previously. They should arrive within the hour. Understood. I'll stay alert until then. There's more, Claire continued. Dr. Voss managed to access some of Amelia's medical records that weren't in the files we found. Apparently, Sarah underwent extensive psychological testing 2 years ago, not ordered by Damien, but secretly arranged by Amelia. The results showed Sarah has an eidetic memory combined with highly advanced pattern recognition abilities. That explains her detailed drawings and how she remembers conversations verbatim. Exactly. But here's the disturbing part. Damien became aware of these abilities and attempted to have her classified as severely autistic to hide her true capabilities. Amelia suspected he was actually exploiting Sarah's gifts. Somehow, having her memorize documents or conversations he didn't want recorded traditionally. She's not just a witness to her mother's murder. She's potentially a repository of every illegal deal Ro ever conducted in her presence, which makes her infinitely more valuable and more vulnerable, Claire confirmed. Stay vigilant until the new team arrives. And Ro? Trust no one who can't verify their identity through Agent Xing directly. After ending the call, Rowan returned inside, his expression carefully neutral to avoid alarming Sarah or Lisa. But Sarah, with her preternatural awareness, looked up immediately. Something's wrong, she stated simply. Just some updates from Claire, Rowan said. A new protection team is coming to help keep us safe. Sarah studied him intently, then returned to her drawing, adding new details. What appeared to be people hidden among the trees surrounding the cabin. They're already here, she said without looking up, watching us. 3 men in the woods, one by the river. They've been there since morning. Rowan's blood ran cold. Sarah, are you sure? They have guns and radios, like the men who worked for Daddy. Rowan moved swiftly to the window, scanning the tree line with trained eyes. At first, he saw nothing. Then, a flash of movement, quickly concealed. A position shift by someone attempting to remain hidden. Lisa, he said quietly, take Sarah to the back bedroom. Stay away from the windows. Now. Lisa didn't question the urgency in his voice, immediately guiding Sarah down the hallway. Rowan checked his service weapon, the one he'd been permitted to keep as part of the protection detail. 6 rounds, plus 1 in the chamber. Not enough if they were facing a professional team. He quickly texted Claire, compromised, possible hostiles on perimeter, proceeding to the secondary location. The response came instantly. Backup 45 mins out. Extract if possible. Confirmed. Row associates breached FBI communications. Rowan mentally calculated options. The cabin had been chosen for its defensibility, but that worked both ways. Limited exits meant limited escape routes. The river offered the best possibility, but would be difficult with a child in tow. He returned to the bedroom where Lisa sat with Sarah, both remarkably composed given the circumstances. We need to leave, he explained quietly. Daddy's friends, Sarah confirmed. They found us because someone told them. How do we get out? Lisa asked practically. There's a service door in the pantry that leads to a root cellar, Rowan explained. From there, a maintenance tunnel runs toward the river. It was built to access the water pumps. If we can reach the river, we can follow it downstream to the ranger station 3 miles away. I can walk 3 miles, Sarah assured him seriously. I won't slow you down. I know you won't, Rowan said. You're the bravest person I've ever met. As they prepared to move, a soft thud on the roof made them all freeze. Footsteps, moving with deliberate stealth. They're getting closer, Sarah whispered. They want to take me back to Daddy. That's not going to happen, Rowan promised. The root cellar was dark and smelled of damp earth. Rowan used the flashlight on his phone to locate the access panel to the maintenance tunnel, a tight squeeze for an adult but manageable. Sarah went first, followed by Lisa, with Rowan bringing up the rear. The tunnel extended approximately 50 yards, running slightly downhill toward the river. Water trickled along the bottom, making the footing treacherous. They moved slowly, carefully, aware that sound might carry to those above. At the tunnel's end, a metal grate overlooked the riverbank, partially concealed by bushes. Rowan carefully removed the grate, scanning for any sign of watchers before helping Sarah and Lisa through the opening. The river gurgled pleasantly, oblivious to the danger surrounding its human visitors. Sunlight dappled through the trees, creating shifting patterns on the water's surface. Stay in the shallows, Rowan instructed. The current's not strong here, but it will mask our tracks. Head downstream. Keep the sun to your left. They had covered perhaps a quarter mile when Sarah suddenly stopped, head tilted as if listening. Dogs, she said quietly. They brought dogs to find us. Rowan heard it a moment later, the distant baying of tracking hounds. Their pursuers had discovered their absence and deployed canines to follow their scent. The water won't hide us from dogs, Lisa realized. Rowan made a quick decision. There's a tributary ahead that leads to a small waterfall. If we can reach it, we can climb up behind the falling water. The constant spray will confuse the dog's sense of smell. They increased their pace, Sarah moving with surprising agility over the slippery rocks. The sound of the dogs grew louder, accompanied now by men's voices calling to each other through the trees. The tributary appeared around a bend, a smaller stream feeding into the main river, its course leading uphill toward a rocky outcropping. They followed it, the ground rising steadily, until they reached the base of a modest waterfall cascading down a 15-foot cliff face. There's a cave behind it, Rowan explained. Used by hikers during sudden storms, we can hide there until help arrives. The climb was challenging but manageable, with natural handholds in the rock face. Rowan went first, then reached down to help Sarah, who scrambled up with the fearless determination of a child. Lisa followed, less confident but equally determined. The cave behind the waterfall was shallow but dry, its entrance completely concealed by the flowing water. The constant sound created a white noise that was both disorienting and oddly peaceful. "Will they find us here?" Lisa asked. "The water will mask our scent and any sounds we make," Rowan assured her. "The dogs are confused," Sarah reported. "They're running in circles where the small river meets the big one." "Good," Rowan said. "Now we wait." Claire said backup is coming. Real FBI agents this time, verified directly through the director. "How will they find us?" Lisa wondered. Rowan smiled. "Claire knows about this cave. It's where she used to hide when she was little and visited me during summers." They settled in to wait, Sarah naturally gravitating to what she did best, drawing. Using a small notepad from Lisa's bag and a pencil, she sketched the waterfall from the inside looking out, capturing the way light refracted through the falling water in delicate, precise lines. "When we're safe," she said as she drew, "I want to draw pictures that aren't about bad things, just beautiful things, like this waterfall, and happy things, like Aunt Lisa's cat Pancake. You can draw anything you want," Lisa promised. "Your mom would be so proud of you, Sarah. So proud of your courage and your amazing memory." "Memory is funny," Sarah observed, still drawing. "People think it's like a camera that takes pictures of what happens. But it's more like a story we tell ourselves. Sometimes the story changes because we change." The philosophical observation, coming from an 8-year-old, momentarily stunned the adults. "That's very insightful," Rowan said. "Where did you learn that?" "Dr. Winters told me. She said my special memory means my stories don't change as much as other people's. That's why Daddy was afraid of me. Because I remember the true stories, not the ones he tells." A distant sound interrupted their conversation, the steady chop of helicopter rotors approaching. "That could be our extraction," Rowan said. Or it could be more of Daddy's friends," Sarah finished calmly. The helicopter grew louder, then hovered somewhere above the river. A loudspeaker crackled to life. "Ranger hail, this is FBI Special Agent Morgan. Claire sent us. Authentication code, Sierra Echo Romeo Alpha. Please signal your location if you can hear this message." "That's the real FBI," Sarah confirmed. "The code is my name. Claire is smart." Rowan smiled. "Yes, she is." He moved to the edge of the waterfall and waved a light-colored shirt where it would be visible through the water without fully exposing their position. Within minutes, 2 agents rappelled down from the helicopter to the base of the waterfall, then climbed up to the cave. Their credentials were checked and verified before Rowan allowed them to approach Sarah and Lisa. "The perimeter is secure," the lead agent reported. "We apprehended 4 suspects in the woods surrounding the cabin. They've been identified as former military contractors with connections to a security firm owned by Senator Westfield. The same senator connected to the judge," Rowan noted. "Exactly. This conspiracy extends further than we initially believed, which is why we're relocating you to a secure military installation until the immediate threat is neutralized." "What about Damien?" Lisa asked. "Is he still in custody?" "Absolutely, and the evidence against him grows stronger by the hour. Dr. Voss has provided comprehensive medical documentation, and your sister's encrypted files have yielded a wealth of information about the trafficking operation." "And Claire?" Rowan asked. "Ms. Hale is under protection at our field office. Her reporting has been instrumental in maintaining public pressure and preventing any behind-the-scenes maneuvering to derail the investigation." As they prepared to board the helicopter, Sarah turned to Rowan. "We're going to be okay now, aren't we?" Rowan knelt to meet her eyes. "Really okay. Your dad can't hurt you anymore. And all those children he and his friends were hurting, they're being rescued too because of you and your mom. Mommy used to say that bad things happen, but good people can make them better again. You and Claire are good people. So are you, Sarah. So are you." 1 month later, the witness preparation room in the federal courthouse was designed to be calming, soft colors, comfortable furniture, nothing to provoke anxiety in those about to testify. Sarah sat at the small table, carefully organizing her drawings into precise chronological order, each one labeled and dated in her meticulous handwriting. Claire watched from nearby, marveling at the child's composure. In the weeks since their escape from the cabin, Sarah had flourished under Lisa's care, her selective mutism gradually fading as she felt increasingly secure. The FBI child psychologist reported that her cognitive abilities were exceptional, not despite her sensory processing differences but alongside them. "Are you nervous about today?" Claire asked gently. Sarah considered the question with her usual thoughtfulness. "A little, but Dr. Winters says it's okay to be nervous when something is important. And this is important, telling the truth so the bad people can't hurt anyone else." "That's exactly right," Claire agreed. "And remember, you only have to answer the questions they ask you. The judge and the special prosecutor are very nice, and they understand this might be difficult." "Will Daddy be there?" Sarah asked. "Yes, but he can't speak to you or come near you, and Rowan and I will be in the courtroom the whole time." Sarah nodded, returning to her drawings. The door opened, admitting Agent Xing and the special prosecutor assigned to the case, a seasoned attorney named Marianne Taylor, known for her skill in handling child witnesses. "Hello, Sarah," Ms. Taylor greeted warmly. "Are those your drawings for today's testimony?" "Yes," Sarah replied. "I put them in order, with the most important ones on top." "That's very helpful, thank you." Taylor turned to Claire. "The court is ready whenever Sarah is." Senator Westfield's attorneys have made another attempt to exclude her testimony, but Judge Rodriguez denied their motion. He's determined to hear from every witness, regardless of political pressure. "Good," Claire said firmly. In the months since Damien's arrest, the case had expanded dramatically. What began as an investigation into one man's abuse and murder had uncovered a sophisticated operation involving judges, law enforcement officials, politicians, and business leaders across 3 states. Children, many with special needs or in vulnerable situations, had been systematically removed from their families through manipulated custody hearings and funneled into specialized care facilities that actually served as processing centers for trafficking. Amelia Rowe had stumbled onto the operation through her volunteer work with a family court advocacy group. Her meticulous documentation, combined with Sarah's drawings and testimony, had provided the framework for what was now the largest trafficking prosecution in the state's history. "Are you ready, Sarah?" Agent Xing asked gently. Sarah gathered her drawings, tucking them carefully into the portfolio Ms. Taylor had provided. "Yes, I'm ready to tell my story. The real story, not Daddy's version." As they walked toward the courtroom, Claire's phone vibrated with a text from Rowan. "We're all here. The gallery is full of supporters." "She won't be alone." Claire showed the message to Sarah, who smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Mommy used to say that truth is like a seed," Sarah observed. "It might be small and hidden for a long time, but if someone brave plants it and cares for it, it grows into something big and strong that everyone can see. Your mom was very wise, and she'd be so proud of how you've helped that seed of truth grow." The heavy doors swung open, revealing a packed courtroom. At the defense table sat Damien Rowe, Senator Westfield, Judge Carson, Sheriff Dunham, and 3 other defendants, all in prison jumpsuits, all watching with varying expressions as Sarah entered. Damien's eyes locked onto his daughter, his expression unreadable. But whatever intimidation he hoped to project faltered against Sarah's clear, unwavering gaze. For the first time in her life, she looked at her father without fear. "All rise," called the bailiff. "The United States District Court for the Eastern District is now in session, the Honorable Judge Elena Rodriguez presiding." Sarah walked to the witness stand, her small figure dwarfed by the massive courtroom, but her presence filling the space with quiet determination. "I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." In the gallery, Claire and Rowan exchanged glances of fierce pride. The journey from that rainy night in the forest to this moment of justice had been long and dangerous. But watching Sarah prepare to speak her truth, to give voice to her mother's courage and her own, made every risk worthwhile. Truth was indeed like a seed, and today it would bloom in full view of the world, impossible to ignore or suppress any longer.